Hey kids, Rio here. Welcome or welcome back to the channel. Today is Wednesday, so today of course is the next in my series of film reviews. I'm really excited today because I mentioned this film before that I hadn't had a chance to see it yet, and I finally did. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about Studio 666. So, I'm sure a lot of the people that are watching this are probably familiar with the Foo Fighters. If not, I'm sure you're familiar with Dave Grohl, possibly familiar with Nirvana, and the general grunge heavy metal eras in general. Yes. Okay. This is a vanity project. This was a vanity project done by the band. It was actually filmed in secret during the pandemic when everything else was shut down. We all remember, of course, a lot of film and television productions just went out the window. I lost a lot of contracts I had in place when all the shutdowns came, so I was just as affected as everybody else. But somehow these guys managed to film this thing in secret during pandemic. It's interesting that the story for this actually was kind of we came up with, but Dave Grohl, credited as mainly coming up with the story, but the whole band kind of in general made this up. Apparently in 2019, they were recording their album Medicine at Midnight, and they were recording in some like old mansion house somewhere. And they all kind of got to thinking, what if this place was haunted? What if this place had some dark and creepy history? What if, right? And so, kind of a la Mary Shelley, Lord Byron, they all kind of sat around through the course of the recording and kind of came up with this lore of what awful thing was wrong with this house that they were in. So this is the germ of the story, and this is kind of how it starts. Well, of course, as I watched this movie, the first thing I thought about was, I know there's real places like that. There's the house in Haight-Ashbury where the Grateful Dead lived and recorded for years. And of course, Haddon Hall, where David Bowie lived for a very long time and recorded several albums there. But I don't think that's what they were actually talking about. I think what they were actually referring to was a place called Healy Grange. It's out in Sussex, I believe, in the UK. Hampshire. And there have been a million artists that have recorded there, including Led Zeppelin, Bad Company, Genesis. In fact, random trivia on Healy Grange is that is where the original lineup of Genesis, including Peter Gabriel, actually wrote The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Now, we talk about the writing on this. Now, as I said, Dave Grohl, mainly, and the band themselves all sort of came up with the general concept of what the story was going to be about. But they did bring in a writing team. So the actual screenplay was put together by a couple other people. One of which is Rebecca Hughes, who is a writer for television, has done a lot of different series. You've probably seen her work all over the place. And Jeff Bueller, who, it turns out, was the writer on Midnight Meat Train.
Midnight Meat Train.
Now, as I said, this is a vanity project. And these guys wouldn't be the first to do such a thing. Going way back into the 60s and 70s, looking at the Beatles, you know, and the Monkey's Head. Looking at, Kiss Meets Phantom of the Park, 1973. Arena and Absurd Notion by Duran Duran. It is not unusual for a band to do things like this, to kind of make a little movie for themselves. So, not groundbreaking in that respect. But obviously the band played themselves in the course of the film. And they're our main characters. Okay. An interesting note is, of course, the drummer Taylor Hawkins, who actually only has ever done one other movie himself. He played Iggy Pop in the CBGB documentary. Unfortunately, he passed away about a month after this film came out. So it's kind of a last look at Taylor in the film. And so while that's a tragic element to the story, it's nice to know that they have that.
Here you go, man. Finish the song.
You did.
So the film was directed by B.J. McConnell, who was apparently a music video director. He actually did a number of videos for the band Slayer. So that's kind of cool. Kind of becomes important here in a little bit. We can talk about the cast. Like I said, the band are playing themselves, so they are the majority of the characters that we deal with. But we do have some rather interesting side characters. So I'm going to talk a little bit about them. Mainly because, let's face it, as a vanity project, while the acting on the band members may be a little lacking, their side characters elevate the whole thing and make it, you know, very watchable. So let's talk a little bit about that. We have a creepy next door neighbor, you know, over the fence. Hello, neighbor. One of these kind of people, right?
How you feeling? Everything okay?
In this case, it's a female character. She's played by a comedian named Whitney Cummings. She's really great in this whole thing. And of course, we also have their manager at the label, the representation at the label.
Foo Fighters, you gotta get me a record.
Was played by Jeff Garlin from Curb Your Enthusiasm, and was also a member of Second City Chicago. So, very qualified comedians, very qualified actors, you know, that kind of help balance out. If it's lacking on this side, it's really good on this side. We do have one random particular cameo that I want to call out, and that is they have some kind of a weirdo caretaker on this property that's kind of out and about doing things. He's not supposed to be there, I guess. Like, they're all kind of confused that he shouldn't be there because the house was abandoned. But he's played by Marty Matullis. Yeah, you've seen this guy in a million things and just didn't realize it. He's a character actor, a monster actor. Most notably for me, he was in the TV series Evil, if you guys have watched that. He played several of the demons, of the monsters in that, including the manager and the sleep paralysis demon George. And I love him. Here is also where the drinking game begins, because he was also in The Mandalorian. So every time I mention The Mandalorian at this point, you got to take a drink, because it seems like everything I've pulled up, there's some connection to that series. So, there you are.
It's our 10th album. We gotta break the mold on this one. Like that. Let's go somewhere we've never been.
This place is amazing.
So as I said, our story is basically the same as what the real world was for them, and that is that they are recording their 10th studio album in this manor home that their representative at the label finds and sends them to go do. And of course the house is creepy and haunted and has a weird lore that goes with it. So it actually plays out this original concept that they talked about, a la Shelley Byron, when they were, you know, really recording in a manor house. Only in this case it all actually happens. So it's really fun stuff. There's a whole kind of underlying story about this like cursed prog rock band or something, and it's neat. There's a lot of trivia that goes with that too. This movie is full of trivia. And like I said, the cameos are just way too many to count. If you know anything about the music scene from like the 90s and early 2000s, anything about like the heavy metal music scene, you're going to recognize a lot of people. It's worth it.
All right, you guys. Hands. Living room.
But now we're going to talk about the special effects, because the special effects on this thing are so good. And we're talking some real pedigrees here on the effects. I'm not even sure where to begin. We're going to start with a company called Alterian Inc. Alterian Inc. seems to be kind of the overall responsible effects house for a lot of the things you see in here. It's so good. You just go to their website, seriously, and you'll see what I mean. But we have a number of individuals I'm going to call out. We're going to start right now with Bill Corso, who did all the special effects on Deadpool. I have to do a drinking game for him, too, because he keeps popping up in everything I'm looking at these days. But we have him in there. We also have Ilya Popov, who was special effects coordinator on Ghostbusters Afterlife. Also worked on Our Flag Means Death and Thor Love and Thunder, which, come on, guys, if you haven't seen those, go see those, okay? Our Flag Means Death is just the best series. And Love and Thunder, come on, can't go wrong with Taika Waititi. And, of course, we also have Matthew Bouchard, who also worked on Afterlife, but, okay, take your drinks, guys. He also worked on The Mandalorian. And a personal favorite, because this name blew my mind, one of the names I saw credited was Tony Gardner, who worked on, like, kind of 3 of my favorite movies in the whole wide world. He worked on Rockula. He worked on Captain EO. He worked on Warriors of Virtue. Come on, Kung Fu Kangaroos, right? This guy worked on this stuff. Evil Dead 2, also worked on the TV series of Chucky. So you got a lot of pedigree here for the effects artists. A lot of pedigree. And their work shows completely. So everything in the movie is practical for the most part. There are 1 or 2 assists. One of the first big special effects moments does have an assist. But it's kind of cool, though. This is good-looking stuff. I can't complain about anything in the special effects. When it gets going, so good.
Oh my God!
Now, we can talk about the score, but that feels obvious, right? Pretty much all of the music is provided by the Foo Fighters. I I couldn't find any kind of interstitial scores or anything else put in there. So I'm assuming that all the music was written by them. Little bits of trivia here that are kind of fun. Apparently Steve Vai is a stunt guitar at one point. Like, you don't see him, but you hear him. It's pretty obvious where it is, right? You have that. And interestingly enough, as I mentioned before about this sort of like legendary prog rock band that, you know, there's a whole dark lore around them. Okay, they're actually, that is part of the story of the movie, and the band is called Dream Widow. Apropos of nothing, Dave Grohl actually recorded a Dream Widow EP and released it in 2022. So you can actually find the actual, you know, band in question in the real world.
Do you guys get this overwhelming sense of death?
So in the end, I don't know, there's not a whole lot I can say about this movie that I haven't already. This is fan service from beginning to end. And as I said, it's a vanity project, but you know what? That's okay. I'm not going to hold that against anybody because a lot of the time those are fun. You know what I mean? I have no real issue with that concept. So rating system, scale of 1 to 5, I'm going to go with a 4. As far as vanity projects go, I've seen worse. Have you seen Kiss Meets the Phantom? I've seen far worse, right? They obviously had a lot of fun doing this. And they brought in some real talent as far as like supporting actors and characters and, you know, the special effects artists. It's a good time. Even if you're not really into like Foo Fighters or like the grunge era, any of this kind of stuff, it's worth watching just because this is fun.
Got a couple of ideas I've been working on. I'll lay them on you.
Dude, wait. It's called Everlong, and you wrote it about 20 years ago.
Okay, so I guess that's it for this week. How you wanna, there's a subscription button over here somewhere. You hit that little button right there. It'll give you notifications when all my new stuff goes up. And whatever weirdness I decide to do on this channel, because you never know here. Alright kids, I guess I will see you all next time. Bye.